so good to be here.
I'm going to ask you a question, which, given your lineage, I would hope you'd have a good answer for. I suspect you will. What's your favorite Christmas song?
Oh, no! You didn't go there. I guess it's 'tis the season. But I will start it off by saying, when I was in my 20s, I was kind of dabbling in punk rock. I did write a song called Black Christmas.
Nice. Do you remember the lyrics?
Okay. We need, like, anybody having a really bad electric guitar right now? Jack got 5 days off this year. His first in 25 years. Something like that.
Nice. It sounds
Punk
like
rock!
it sounds like it has Klingon lineage.
So no electric guitars, just Vulcan lead. How do they pronounce that? The one that sold the great lead.
A liar.
Vulcan liar.
Don't call
Pants
anyone
on
a liar.
fire.
But Vulcans never tell a lie.
Well, there you go.
And
What are you
Exaggeration.
talking about?
The Greg Jean auction was this incredible auction of Star Trek merchandise.
Yeah.
They sold, what was it, $12 million, $13 million?
Something like that.
They
yeah.
sold everything,
Yeah.
They
right?
sold everything.
They sold me.
They sold
In
you.
one form or
I know,
another.
Yeah. Some guy bought me, in Indiana.
Wow.
I wonder how
Hell
many.
It
of a
worked
place to
for a
be
little
bought.
bit, but then,
I wonder how many times you were an action figure. I mean, when you think about it.
You mean actual, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
a
actual-
modifications?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, oh my goodness. There's the disco one that I really like, the sort of pink glittery
Right.
kind of one. The Galoob, the original,
Right.
where I took a bazillion hours of photos, and that's what they came up with. I look like,
Where you had your boy haircut.
well, I mean, I was sort of I was transitioning
Right.
in the Galoob
Yes.
action figure. Then, yeah, there's Sela, there's all kinds of
There is
Tashas.
Sela and Tasha and all sorts of figures.
It's like, the Patty Duke show.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
They walk alike, they talk alike, at times they even look alike. They're a wild
Oh my God.
So,
They're mother-daughter.
well, let's go back to, obviously people want to, and you've told this story a million times, but I want to ask you, when you auditioned for Next Generation, a lot of people don't know that you were on the list for Troy, not for Tasha Yar originally.
Yeah, and I've seen subsequently the casting list. And yes, the original auditions, I think I read for the part of Troy maybe 3 times in a long process of 5 or 6 auditions by the time the show was cast. But then this casting sheet under Tasha Yar is only my name. There's a couple of people considered for all the other roles, but they had whittled it down to me for that particular role. I think once Gene Roddenberry got it, sort of saw it, he saw it, and that was it. He loved my little short haircut, and again, this is 1986, and television, girls on TV in the 80s, they had fluffy hair and a lot of lip gloss and big bazookas, and I didn't fit the bill. So it was like, this could be interesting. I don't know what this is, but let's give it a shot,
Did, obviously a big influence on that role at the time was Gene had screened a whole bunch of movies, and one of them was Aliens in the role of Vasquez, which at the time was very new. And Tasha Yar was very much influenced by this Vasquez. Did Gene talk to you much about the role, or was it more you were dealing with Rick and Maurice Hurley and?
No, well, Gene, no, thank God Gene was there. I had the great privilege of working with the master, working with the visionary, working with the man who created it all. And he was he would answer any question. He would elaborate if he could, but it was more a collaboration. It was like, you're this part. I'm gonna make a leap here, but when I played Rachel Creed in Pet Sematary, Stephen King signed my book. I brought my novel to the first table read, and he wrote on my title page, "You are Rachel Creed, and Rachel Creed is you." And that's the notion that I got from Roddenberry. It was like, oh no, this is yours now, so make her your own.
Is that true, Gene?
You know, Denise, when we first worked together back in 1986, it was so wonderful to have you come in and become Tasha for us. We were very, very excited to have you as a member of the family. And you were, I believe the word was badass.
Yeah.
And we were very pleased for that, so thank you.
When you look back, I mean, people forget, you know, your early part of your career, you're going out for a lot of different roles. You know, now we look back, it's, oh, Star Trek, you auditioned for Star Trek. But back then, it was just something that went out on breakdowns. Your agent probably called you about and said, oh, they want to see you for this new first-run syndicated TV series. I mean, did it in any way strike you as something like, well, this would be really cool, I really hope I get it? Or was it just another day auditioning for another show?
Oh, it was so uncool. Okay, so you can imagine I'm a young actor going to acting class, and nobody wants to be on TV. Now, it's hard to imagine because TV right now is where the greatest stories are being told, you know, with the streaming and, you know, beautiful HBO and, you know, all these great networks. Back then, TV was a place you went to die. If you were an actor, you wanted to do indie movies. God willing, you could be, you know, in a big, you know, feature film, but indie movies, it was the birth of indie films. And, of course, theater. Stage is where it really counted. So, I was working on an independent film called Miracle Mile at the time.
The Steve Jarnett film.
Steve DeJarnette, you know, which had a lot of buzz, was very hot, this script. And finally, it had been around. Everyone knew about this movie, and finally it got the green light because Hemdale, which was an independent film company at the time, agreed to make the film the way Steve DeJarnette saw it, which was not a happy ending. Everybody in Hollywood wanted a happy ending, except Steve would not make it if he had to do that. So he didn't make it for years. So I'm on the set of Miracle Mile, and I get the call to audition for a remake. I mean, it was being touted as a remake, a reboot. I don't even think said, there was no word like reboot at that point. No. It was, you know, they're redoing Star Trek. And it was like, what? They're redoing Star Trek. And it's going to be the first show ever made for first-run syndication. So it had, like, the most tawdry, you know, pedigree. And I remember hiding. So when you audition for something, you have these pages. They're called sides. They're just pieces of the script. You don't have the full script. They didn't give me a full script. And I had these sides that I was trying to study on the set of Miracle Mile, and I was hiding them under, like, pages because I was too embarrassed to tell, like, Anthony Edwards and Mare Winningham and all these, like, really cool actors that I was reading for Star Trek.
Because the movie is about the end of the world, and it was like, you're thinking it's the end of my career if I do this Star Trek. And if you haven't seen Miracle Mile, it's great. Denise is great in it.
Oh,
you should check it out. It's hard. You probably can't get it on streaming, but the Blu-ray.
Yeah, the Blu-ray
is great.
Yeah, they did a remake, and the extras on the Blu-ray are really fun. We got to go back and Johnny's Diner and do those.
Yeah. And stop with that. Don't watch his next film, Cherry 3000. Just stick with Miracle Mile.
I know, Steve.
So when you were reading for Troy, I mean, I just can't imagine those initial auditions. I feel great joy and gratitude. It just seems so not you.
Oh, okay, so, Junie Lowry was the casting director, and, I have no script, I've not talked to anybody, and I'm playing a Beta Z, right? Beta Z. And I'm going, okay, what's a Beta Z? Well, nobody can give you any answer because no one knows what a Beta Z. And I remember the casting director just going, she's kind of cool and distant, and she's psychic and empathic and okay, because the original idea of Troy was that she was sort of this Icelandic, very almost out of a Ingmar Bergman movie, very very Icelandic, cold, blonde, couldn't read her emotions, and that's the way it was for a while, So that I was just making stuff up. I had no idea what this. It didn't matter. You could do anything, because it wasn't real.
Yeah. And people forget in those early auditions, all you have is the casting director. The producers aren't there. The writers aren't there. There's nobody to ask. It's a casting director who's maybe read the script.
I don't even know if there was a script at that point. It was just and very. Nowadays, everyone makes you sign a non-disclosure agreement. Very secretive. Back then, it was really a novelty to be able to be that private and secret about, but of course, it's Star Trek, so.
Do you remember what the sides were? Did they make their way into the show at some point?
Oh, no. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. So eventually the scene that I auditioned with for Gene and the producers at Paramount, when they had me switch roles and be Tasha, was an amazing scene that never ended up in the series. And Marina and I talk about this to this day. So it involved Tasha seeking out Troy's counsel in her quarters. And Tasha was really distraught. Tasha was very insecure. And she comes to Troy saying, I'm out of my league here. I can't do this job. You guys are amazing. Every officer on here is extraordinary. And I'm unqualified to hold this position. Captain Picard is maybe the greatest leader of the Federation, and I know I'm just going to blow it. I'm just going to blow it. And Troy is basically talking Tasha off the ledge and saying, wait a minute, of course you didn't get this, this is not a charity organization. You deserve this. You earned this. You are the best chief of security in all of the Federation. What is going on? And she goes, I don't know. Troy goes, Tasha, what are you doing for fun? Fun? There's no room for fun. And Troy goes, yeah, okay. You gotta go, basically, go to the bar, have a drink, go to the holodeck, maybe have sex?
What? That would have to wait till the next episode.
Right, yes. Not with an android, per se, but, whatever she could get. So now you see the lineage, But anyway, that scene, what was so great about this scene was it was vulnerable, it humanized, and it was a scene between two women.
And she had this imposter syndrome, which is so interesting because the character had this interesting backstory that they never really serviced.
So that was a door opening for me as an actor to go, there's some cracks in the veneer. And I was always, as an actor, as a human being, that's what's interesting to me. I was, part of me was being very cautious, this was not 1966, this is now 1986, and people are now more aware of, fragile, vulnerable people on television. And the one thing I didn't want to have is, the crew of the Enterprise be perfect.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because at the time, you're sort of told, well, it's the wake of Hill Street Blues and all the big ensemble shows. This isn't like the original Star Trek where it's the big three, where it's Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and a bunch of people who drive the ship. You would all get these great stories, and your characters would all be serviced.
That's what I thought.
And it turns out that wasn't really what happened in that first season.
That's why I ended up leaving at the end of the first season, because the 80s were changing. Television landscape was changing. A la Hill Street Blues is the first one that always comes to mind. You had multiple storylines going with multiple characters. When Gene told me that that would not be the case for this show, that it would still adhere to the template, that he knew that Star Trek was the main three, the captain, the first officer, and Data, that we would all sort of fill in. I went, that's not what I signed up for.
Right. And obviously that led to you leaving at the end of the first season because you weren't creatively satisfied.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me ask you this, because this is an episode that I know is generally reviled now, which is Code of Honor, but at the time, I imagine it felt like a gift to you because you got a lot to do in that episode. I mean...
Yes and no. Yes, because we're still early. I think it's episode 3.
Yeah, I think so.
We're still early in the we're all sort of figuring out how to even press a communicator badge, at this point. I mean, I literally pulled out a phaser and went, bzzz, until somebody went, no, you don't. They'll put in the sound effects later. And I went, oh, sorry, did I actually go zzz? It just, nothing seemed, it was like kids playing with toy guns, cowboys and Indians. So, yes. Code of Honor, I kept scratching my head, going, is anyone paying attention? How is this script getting made? Why are we doing this? I had no protection. Nobody had my back. I was the main, character in the episode. I was sort of thrown to the wolves a little bit, and I kept looking around going, and we had 2 African-American actors in our cast, and it was like, guys, I mean, it's hitting me strangely. How is this affecting you? And like, now, 35 years later, 36 years later, people go, they have a real visceral reaction, and there's been even talk of removing it from the canon, which I'm totally against.
Yeah. Residuals. No.
That's my episode, damn it. No. Yes, but I'm not into cancel culture, okay? This is where we were at. Culturally, the writing of the television show was approved. So you need to be able to look at ourselves, in a mirror.
Right.
And, hopefully get better.
Do you think it crept up on the people in charge?
No.
So it was all...
It was just,
They just didn't think about it.
It wasn't, it was on deafness, They didn't, they understood, they wanted, to go to they thought this was a good idea, and it just, it hits not only racially and the racial aspect of, going to an all black planet, because that just visually, just doing that in and of itself creates something, you know, you can read into whatever you need to do. But the fact that this man was sacrificing his wife
Right.
to fight me to get another wife
Right.
is that almost is as bad.
Right, but devil's advocate, on paper, this is a noble race that we're meeting.
Yes.
And they have, code of honor. They have a very specific method of how they live their lives. And to boot, the women run the planet. And it seems to me that the idea is okay, but that the making it real is where they've faltered.
Well, yeah, because you're you're separating.
Yeah.
It just visually, you're already creating that.
Yeah.
Because it's film, and that's how
Because
you
it's film.
experience
You
it.
have all black people over here, and you have all white people over here. So just, if you don't have any plot, that is,
I believe
you know,
the word
that
is problematic.
speaks to the
Yeah.
history
Yes.
of the problems of this country
So let's-
and the world.
Focus it a little bit on your experience, because look, we're all in the industry. We know what you mean when you say you didn't have anybody who had your back and nobody who was looking out for you, right? But let's help the audience a little bit. So when you say you didn't have somebody, there was no writer on set, there was no one that you could just go and talk to and say, I've got this question about the script. I mean, what was that process like for you? How did you deal with it on set?
Well, I mean, I was a young actor in my first TV series as a regular. I had no power of any sort, and you were handed a script, and you were expected to do what is asked of you. I was hired to act in the script. I wasn't hired for my integrity. I wasn't hired for my, criticism or ideas. You play Tasha Yar. This is Tasha Yar in this script. What was unusual, at least from 36 years later to me, and I scratch my head, is that, nobody questioned it.
Yeah.
Nobody questioned it.
Yeah.
I walked around on set like going, this will never get on the air. This won't get on. But I think because it was syndicated, I don't think a lot of attention. We were like the little, sort of stepchildren of the bastard stepchildren of Paramount.
Right.
I mean, I used to steal food from the set of Cheers,
Right.
to
they
like
had the good
feed
craft
us.
service.
They
Oh,
had the
your
good
name,
stuff. They were
or-
making dough.
Yeah.
We were like, oh my God! That first year, we had these, crappy little trailers that they, dug out of retirement in the back lot of, San Gabriel Valley, and they dusted them off and, threw them on the Paramount lot, and we were. We were eating tomato slices and cremora. I mean, I literally remember going to the set one day, and that was what was on the table. And working brutal hours, and 26 episodes a season. This is unheard of. You guys, I mean, generally back in the day, in the 80s, network television, let's say NBC, CBS, ABC, 22 episodes were ordered for a season. Now, 8.
Yeah.
You get a 10 episode, 8 episodes, sometimes 6 episode story arc, limited series. They're called limited series.
Right.
So we were shooting 26 per season, and you, like on episode 26, went to bed, and like a week later started season 2.
It was a murderous schedule.
Yeah, it was nutty.
Well, and I want to ask you about that because you mentioned 26, and you also talk about how LeVar and Michael, didn't have anything to say at the time about Code of Honor. But part of it is because it was such a large ensemble. People think everyone's there all the time, but they could be working 2 days. They may never have been on the planet.
Michael wasn't even in that episode,
Right.
as I recall, and I'm not sure LeVar was.
Because he was 7 to 13 at the time.
There you go.
He wasn't even guaranteed every episode.
Right.
So you could have episodes which is part of your frustration, where you'd work 2 days on a 7-day episode, and half of it was standing around at your console.
Standing on that bridge, on that horseshoe. I actually asked the producers at a certain point, why don't you just make my legs? A model of my legs. Because you know I'm always on that horseshoe up there. But all the, and Patrick and Marina and Jonathan are down here. And you've got, LeVar and Brent, and you've got the screen. So just keep the camera down here. My legs will look like they're there, because I have no dialogue. And I can go home.
Yeah.
So
And they go, oh, Denise. I go, no, I'm actually serious, man. You could just put my legs there.
So during the strike, you're like, this AI thing isn't so bad.
AI legs.
I created AI by my, right.
So that was part of the frustration, because you're not getting the meat, but you're still being brought in. You're not getting anything to do, and you could literally stand around all day with nothing to say. And people say, "Well, it's good work if you can get it," but it's not, because if you're there, you know how soul-sapping it can be.
It is. Soul-sapping is a great expression. Listen, you're grateful, but you got to put it into context. The age I was, what I was hungry for, and it wasn't like I was getting, friends money. We weren't getting paid $1 million an episode. It was, so you balance things out, and you just go, I'm going to take a chance here. I'm going to take a shot, because I don't want to be that old lady at the end of the day going, what if?
But I'm amazed that somehow you managed to stay in their good graces. Like most people who leave a show, it's like they will, they were awful. We're so glad they're gone, And there's always, they feel they've been betrayed. They're not loyal. Everyone loved you. Gene never said a bad word about you. Even Rick,
Certainly not anymore.
brought you back.
I know. I don't. It's kind of inexplicable, because you're right. And by the way, had it not been for the fact that Gene Roddenberry had total control of everything of the Next Gen, there's no way I would have been able to leave.
Right.
I had an ironclad, I think it was 6, maybe 7-year contract. You can't break that contract. And Gene understood my frustration. He empathized with that. He identified. He didn't want me to leave. No one wanted me to leave, but he said, I don't want you to be, I want you to want to be here, basically. Yeah. And it's not going to get any better. I'd be lying to you if I, told you it's going to get better. This is what it is. So I get you, and I'm going to let you go.
And what's great is then there were so many good opportunities for you to come back, and in most of those cases, it was better than anything you would have gotten had you stayed. I mean, yesterday's Enterprise, I'm sure, was a gift.
My God, I had to die to get the best episode, I always say that. I mean, it's just absolutely. Yesterday's Enterprise is my absolute favorite, and on so many levels. I mean, the writing is so good, but it also takes care of a lot in terms of who Tasha, was and what she cared about.
And people forget, I always think this is a lot of fun, is that you died and then came back because of the way they were shooting the episodes, right? I mean, you shot your farewell, but then you still had to shoot.
They had the script ready for Symbiosis.
Right.
First. They had the episode for Skin of Evil first which was a gift, because that would have been very hard. It was hard enough to shoot that hologram monologue. The crew all had black armbands on that day. And we had this wonderful set costumer named Cha-Cha Blevins, and she gave me a little pillbox hat, black hat with a veil. Oh my goodness. So I came to the set with a little funereal veil. And it was emotional. I mean, the director was genius in that he shot me last. So everybody, you know, you see Patrick's reaction and Marina's reaction and the camera. So most of the day is spent the camera facing that way on those guys. So by the time it turns around to face me, in my monologue, I had cried enough, because obviously I couldn't be crying when I'm delivering that monologue, and I knew it, I did it in one take, you know, with the camera on me, because I was ready.
Well, it was the greatest memorial since Mr. Spock, you know.
Well,
I want to jump forward a few years and talk about your involvement with Trekkies, because that's where we first met. You came to our Talk Trek show up in Sunland.
Yeah.
And
you're braver than us.
and filmed, you know, the segment for the film, and I thought this was amazing fun, and I was so glad to see you involved in it. Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened?
Wow. So, Trekkies, for me, you know, obviously was a chance for the fans to have their story told. I had never been to a Comic-Con. I had never been to a, you know, convention until I joined the cast of Next Gen. And I was going to conventions, and I was getting a sense, after talking to many fans over the years, that there's a whole other level of thing that's going on here that people aren't aware of, the public. You know, it would be it was always very easy for, like, the local news to, you know, 11 o'clock news go, hey, everyone, you know, there's a Star Trek convention this weekend down at the convention center. Get those Spock ears out and come on down, you know. And they'd be just, you know, doofuses. And I would go, well, okay, there's that. But there's this other thing that's going on. There's a sense of deep connection, camaraderie, friendship. Marriages have happened. Charities have sprung up. People are you know, identifying with each other and feeling this sort of togetherness that sometimes they don't always feel in their lives. So, okay, so I would come back from conventions, and my partner in Trekkies, Roger Nygaard, the director, he and I had a really great friendship. I appeared in his first feature film he ever did out of film school called High Strung. And very hard to find. If you can ever get your hands on this one, it's with Jim Carrey, plays the devil. You know, it's hysterical. But it was produced by the Russian mafia, so it's probably not available. Or you'll die if you watch it. So anyway, Roger and I stayed friends. So we were having lunch one day, and I said, God, I just came back from a convention. I can't believe there hasn't been a documentary. I love documentaries, by the way. I watch them all the time. I can't believe there's not been a documentary about the fans. And he goes, oh, God, if I hear you say that, okay, you know what? We're making a documentary. I said, what? We are making a documentary? Yeah, we're going to make a documentary. We don't know how to make a documentary. Well, we're going to figure it out. It can't be that hard. And that's what we did.
Yeah, and Roger's such a terrific editor. I mean,
oh my God.
Emmy for Curb Your Enthusiasm. I mean, he's just a real talent.
Well, that's the gift that keeps on giving, because he knew, you know, we had a budget of 0 to make Trekkies, but he knew what he could shoot and what he didn't need. You know, he was editing as we were shooting. Yeah. And, you know, for me, somebody talked about, I don't know if you guys have seen, I just finished watching, there's a new documentary on HBO called Love Has Won. Anybody seen this documentary about this cult of Mother God? Love Has Won. I highly recommend this documentary. Only 3 parts. But the filmmaker, a female film documentarian, she said it was an exercise in empathy. to make this documentary because people were asking, I mean, you watch this and you go, okay, there's nothing I've ever done that is this insane, okay? I mean, really, it's huge. It's a leap of, I don't know what. But she didn't want to, she's not there to judge, She's not there to make opinions of. She's there to listen and watch and learn. And that's the intention I was, I had with Trekkies.
And it let the world know of the term Brent break.
A Brent break, right? I have them all the time.
Well, we have so many more questions we could ask and want to ask, but I would be remiss if I didn't go to the audience for some Q&A. So I'm going to have to, because I got the sign that we only have a few minutes. So please go to the microphone and ask your questions. Ask away.
There's Katie.
How's it going? Oh, there we go.
That's your question.
Cool. So my question is, being such a strong female character on Star Trek and just being a strong female in real life, what would you like people to take away from your character 10, 20, 50 years from now?
Wow. Well, something like you did. Katie's an Emmy award-winning meteorologist.
Oh, gosh.
Went into science. So, the thing that has most touched me in the 36 years of talking to people at cons and all over the world is when someone comes to me and they gleaned from Tasha Yar the possibilities that she created herself. If you, which I know you guys know probably more than I do, the background of, Tasha Yar from Turkana 4, failed Earth colony, rape gangs, orphaned, to be able to not only survive that, but, join the Federation, like that. That's a story I want. Like I need to fill in that gap. How did she get from Turkana 4 into the Federation? Do you guys know that?
I have no idea.
Right. Okay. Me either. I was thinking about this the other. This is funny how I still think. I'll be sitting around going, "Wait a minute. How did that happen? That's an amazing, feat." But that's the story that is so compelling to me. That she represents. That notion that with grit and determination and strength and survival, you can do anything.
Thank you.
So when are you going to write the novel?
I know, right? The Tasha Yar story.
So I have always been wondering whether or not it was particularly fulfilling to reprise your role for Phase 2, Star Trek Phase 2. I don't even know if anybody knows what that is, but it was fun to watch.
Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. Now, the fan film?
The fan film.
Yes.
Blood and Fire.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. So that, because George Takei and Walter were the ones who had kind of stepped forward in that and were telling me how amazing these guys are with their, in Ticonderoga, they've, have this amazing recreation of the Enterprise, and they just are amazing, and they're fun to work with. So I said, okay, let's check it out. And for me, it was like this meta moment, It was like they were fans making a film of the show that I was on, but now I was going back in to help them make a film of the film that they, it was just like I was chasing my tail a little bit. It was really cool. It was fun to do.
And that was a famous script that David Gerald had written for Next Gen.
That's right.
That had been killed, that he finally got to see.
Exactly. They were in the 80s. I think there were two gay men that fell in love in the crew, and they wanted to do it, but then they didn't. They
Gene said he wanted to do it.
right. Okay.
I think it
Pull the plug.
other forces
There you
sort of
go.
pulled it.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, but the 80s, that was it was still the battle.
But there was a lot of good things about the 80s for you young kids.
Oh my
A lot of good things.
God.
Good guys always
You saw
won, by
Stranger
the way.
Things. It was like that. You know?
Oh, there were those hair bands, and
right.
flock of seagulls, and all kinds of good stuff, man. There was so much good stuff in the 80s. Oh yeah.
Hi. So Star Trek has always been the one constant in my self-harm recovery journey, and I've asked everybody I've met today. The guys on Next Gen are goofballs. What's your favorite set story of Jonathan, Bran, or any of them?
Of those goofballs?
Are those goofballs?
Oh my God, they were hysterical. But one of my favorite Jonathan stories. So there was a really big earthquake in LA. I think it was 86.
Yeah.
Northridge?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, Northridge was 90.
No.
Oh, the first one.
There was
The first one.
Yeah,
first
okay,
one,
yeah.
but we're talking, there was another one that, so Frakes and I were the only actors called to set that morning. And we were in the makeup trailer with Michael Westmore. And so Jonathan, we were all given, remember I mentioned Cha-Cha Blevins? We were all given robes from the big, wonderful warehouse of Paramount costuming. Robes to wear over our spacesuits so we wouldn't get powder, obviously Brent, and all while they were touching us up. Mine was a beautiful old, like men's 40s satin striped, like Clark Gable would wear. Jonathan's was a hot pink 70s women's chenille bathrobe, like 5 sizes too small. Okay, he couldn't wrap it around. He couldn't close it. He wore it open, and the sleeves, went up to the elbow. But he wore that thing with pride. So we're in the makeup trailer that morning of that earthquake, and Jonathan is at the bowl, the water bowl, shaving. Remember, he used to shave. And I'm in Michael Westmore's makeup chair. And suddenly, you can imagine, it's a trailer, metal trailer, and it's like, and you hear the people in Paramount Studios, earthquake, earthquake, and we all go, running out to clear whatever is going to happen. And it's over as soon as it starts, It's so quick. It feels forever, but it's over quick. So, Jonathan, I look, and he's got half a face of shaving cream. And he's in the pink robe. Oh, no. And suddenly, I have Entertainment Tonight with the microphone in my face. And they said, hi, this is, Allison Jones, and I'm with Entertainment Tonight, and I'm standing here at the Paramount lot with Denise Crosby from Star Trek The Next Generation. Denise, what? We just had an earthquake. What just happened? I said, oh, you know what? You need to ask him. Jonathan, without missing a beat, just goes, with this full, shaving cream and pink robe, just goes, well, it was really scary, Allison. But, as you can see, we're all okay, and everything's going to be okay. I was on the floor. The man will do anything. He has no shame. About a half an hour later, Patrick shows up. It's his call. Patrick has just bought a new car, probably the first new car he's ever bought in his life, because he's actually making a little money. So he's bought a Jaguar, okay? So he comes to the set, and he walks in, he goes, oh, God, this bloody car, this Jaguar, I'm taking it back. I'm taking it back. It's a piece of crap. I said, what happened? What's going on? with the damn thing. I'm driving down Melrose and it's shaking. It's shaking. I just bought the bloody thing. I'm taking it back today. It's a piece of crap. Oh my God. No, Jonathan, Patrick, you were in an earthquake. We just had an earthquake. An earthquake? An earthquake? What bloody hell is an earthquake? Welcome to LA, Patrick.
Funny,
Sir.
he didn't put that story in his memoir.
No. Probably doesn't remember it. I remember it very clearly.
Hi, I has sort of a two-parter. You mentioned you were going for Troy. You had auditioned for her. If you had gotten Troy, do you think you would have enjoyed playing her, and would you have stayed on the show? Do you think? I mean, it's a what if, but your best.
I mean, I would love the role of Tasha Yar.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even think about Troy. I mean, and again, everything it was predicated on the writing, on the use of the character, on the integration in the stories. So I would have played the doorknob. If the doorknob, talked and had, stuff to say and do. But, that's what it comes down to. So it really, hard to know.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine not playing Tasha Yar, though.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I so wish we had had time because I really wanted to. You've had such a successful career as a character actor, working on all these great shows. From Walking Dead to Suits, which apparently is everyone's favorite show now.
Who knew?
We didn't get to talk about any of that, but we'll have to do it again. But thank you so much, and please stay. I guess as is the tradition here at GalaxyCon, they take a selfie with Denise here. She'll be on stage, and then you'll be behind her. But thank you so much. This was fantastic.
It is my
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thank you, guys. Beautiful. Have a great con. I started you off on Friday night. And come to my table, come say hi. I'll be here all weekend.